Welcome back to Stocklabs. We're going to recap the second week of January 2022. And we've kind of been off to a rough start this year. You probably wouldn't know it by just looking at sort of the headline indices for this week. I think the overall performance from that standpoint was kind of muted, but there's been a lot of carnage sort of under the surface of the market. I'm also going to start putting links to free trials somewhere. Either it'll appear on the screen or in the description somewhere. I have to see where to format it. So if you share this with people that don't have it, or if you yourself don't have subscription, you can get a 7-day free trial for the platform to try it out. Okay, let's get to our major indices. And like I said, I think it was kind of like muted performance. So week to date, oil was up a good amount. Sort of back to the highs that it was a few months ago. When people were sort of freaking out that White House was doing sort of token SPR releases. They were sort of in the press trying to talk down the price, but it's sort of right back around those highs, and we'll see if that exerts any pressure on I guess the sort of consumer spending and consumer sentiment and all that stuff. I mean, sentiment from the consumer side has been trending down, but we'll see. So as far as the stock indices, S&P down 30 bips, NASDAQ was flat. Bonds were actually flat, even though they've been sort of getting whacked to start the year. The Dow was down 85 bips and IWM down 9/10, sort of along the same line. So, like I said, it's a soft week, but some things in the market were down way more than this. So there's a lot of shuffling around and sort of trying to find new positioning for what the overall stance is going to be going forward. From here are mega caps. And this is like mega cap tech. So Tesla up a little bit, Google up a little bit, Apple up 0.5%, basically flat, and the rest mostly down. So Facebook flat-ish and Amazon flat-ish. Netflix continues to slide. It's been the worst performer for a little while. It's down almost, I think it's like almost 200 points off the high. It was up around 700, and then it kind of sliced right through 600 and is down toward 500 now. Even NVIDIA, this really hasn't been as strong as it was, most of all of last year and further back too. But, down well below 300 now. So we'll see if some of these, these really are the major stocks that are going to sort of push our indices around. When these stocks are struggling, it's hard for the S&P and the NASDAQ to sort of make much progress. You see a lot of failed rallies. You see a lot of sort of the price action that we've been seeing thus far for 2022. And then our industries week to date, so the breadth was not great. So almost every industry was down, with the exception of basic materials that bounced with oil. Utilities flat, industrials flat, financials kind of flat. The financials finished the week soft, but had been doing okay up until then. Healthcare is like, I don't know how many times we have to see it on here. It'd be the worst performer, but still hasn't found a real bottom in the healthcare space. So I know at the end of 2021, I was sort of saying like you probably might see a rotation back into healthcare to start the year, but that hasn't materialized at all. So we're still sort of waiting for that to happen. And tech was soft on a median basis, obviously, with even though the NASDAQ was flat-ish, median tech stock was down over 1.5%. As far as our best performing subsectors, they were all from oil and gas. So the majors up 7%, some of these other ones 5-6%. And then the rest, we had this sort of Brewers up 5%, but then outside of that, nothing was up 5%. So um, pretty pretty poor breadth. And then on the downside, obviously, there were nuclear down 8%. I don't know what's in discount stores, but it was down 77%. And gene editing, so obviously that goes with sort of biotech healthcare sector, down big. Casinos got hit, and biotech down 4%. So yeah, you can see, I mean, it's not like a ton of sectors were down a lot, over 5%, but um, overall the breadth was just lacking, which sort of goes with a flat-ish to soft week in the indices, and we'll see how the rest of it shapes up from there. But we really haven't had much of a theme in the market, other than basic materials have been pretty strong. They've been pretty reliable as far as um, making rallies and continuing them versus just giving up gains right away. Like a lot of the sectors have just been getting, um, you know, any rally that they put up basically fails. So it's hard to depend on anything. For our market cap sorted indices, so 1 to 5 billion was down 84 bips. So that was kind of in line with IWM. 5 to 10 billion, down 49 bips, so soft, but not as soft as the small list. Large caps were down 0.25%, and the mega caps were up 95 bips, which is pretty good, but also kind of unusual given that the Terra caps also were up 0.5%, but like I had from that watch list, the very biggest caps, tech stocks were all sort of downish, so that sort of governs the indices more than just looking at the cap range as a whole. So, for instance, let's see, what were the top performers this week for these guys? Okay, so Taiwan Semiconductor has been doing pretty well. I think it's up around like 140. Yeah, 140. Applied Materials up. It's pretty good week. So these sort of like, I mean, everyone knows what these semiconductor companies are, but it's not Nvidia, it's not AMD. So it's a different set of semiconductors. JD, being one of the top performers in this cap range, is new-ish because the Chinese stocks have been getting hammered for, I don't know, 8 months or something like that. So I think I had posted this in Pelican Room. I think probably want to start taking a look at some of these Chinese stocks to see if they are starting to reverse their trends. So, I mean, JD, Baba, any of the other sort of bigger ones, look at them first, and then you can go down the sort of cap range for more speculative stuff. But it looks like there's some money starting to flow back into Chinese stocks after, a pretty horrible almost a year. What else? So we'll go to intelligence for this week, and it's actually quite bullish. Gush is rated bullish, as it's been for a little while. And okay, so SPXL is S&P. Transports, transport's been doing okay, I think. And okay, so financials have been strong. They closed the week soft on, I think, JP Morgan earnings. I guess some of the comments they made about the consumer, if I remember correctly, were not quite as bullish as people may have hoped. But we'll see if the market shrugs that off, or not the market, but we'll see if the financial sector sort of shrugs that off and just continues with its strength for the year. Okay, pure growth. This is new on here. I haven't seen this ETF on here, but I guess maybe the growth stocks have gotten hammered enough where it's starting to come into an area where maybe we're looking for a trend reversal. Although Fang D is on here, which is bearish Fang, and that would sort of like, I mean, I don't want to say negate, but it would, as far as the indices are concerned, it would sort of negate some of this stuff because these stocks, the caps on them are just too big to overcome. If they're doing poorly, then that's it. There isn't much else to. Oh wait, there isn't much else to think about. Um, and downside, what's rated for downside? Okay, Bitcoin. Bitcoin closed the week on a little bit of a rally, I think, if I remember. But yeah, the trend's been down here. I think it's been sort of sloshing around this 40K, 42K area. And I mean, if this is rated bearish, then you might look for another slide in Bitcoin, which has actually been pretty highly correlated with the sort of momentum tech trade. Um, so we'll see. I mean, the pure growth, which is like momentum tech ETF, was rated bullish, but this one's rated bearish. So just from a thematic standpoint, it's a little bit of conflicting information. But I mean that correlation doesn't have to hold. One could be up and down. One could be up with the other down. VIXY rated down, so maybe like a compression of volatility this week, which would be good overall for the market. Although, yeah, it's hard to say. There are actually a lot of conflicting data points in here. So like if Fang is down, if Bitcoin's down, I don't see all of this sort of playing, fitting together perfectly. Okay, Nrgd. So this is bearish oil. Okay, so that's like the opposite of Gush. So Gush is bullish, Nrgd is bearish. So energy overall is bullish. Okay, Brazilian small caps, no one trades that. And okay, mid caps are rated, or this is short mid caps are rated bearish. So that's bullish, sort of the middle capped ranges of stocks. So, I mean, I think maybe we're looking for another bit of a hectic week. We do have option expiration coming up. It is a holiday shortened week. Markets closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday. So 4 days plus option expiration. I would expect some bigger ranges in the indices to sort of last the whole week. I mean, if we start down big, maybe buy it for a rally. But if the market sort of ramps out of the gate, I don't know. It's kind of a tough spot to have much conviction. Maybe you're just better off waiting a little bit, depending on which sectors are leading. If it's sort of the same picture that we've been seeing these first couple of weeks, I wouldn't buy into a rally. But if it's some sort of other composition of stocks leading the market, then it could be something more trustworthy. I'll go to, okay, so we were watching this pretty closely too. You can see like we're trying very hard to try to get a oversold signal. We had a couple intraday. We had one intraday, I think on both of these days, or maybe it was I think 2 different days this past week. We had intraday signals on this oversold algorithm, which sort of produced rallies, but they're not going to show up here. These are only based on closes, and we only back test the closing signals. So as far as this is concerned, there hasn't been an oversold signal. But if you were sitting in Pelican Room and someone called it out, or you were watching Stocklabs live during the market, you may have found a trade on an oversold signal. But yeah, ideally we get one of these signals to lock in, on a closing basis, and that would sort of tell us that we've gotten washed out enough to maybe produce a swing low. Okay, so I think this week given that it's a short week with option expiration and how bad the market's been, this year so far, I think, maybe just continue to be pretty cautious and, look for a tradable bottom. But if it doesn't come, then just, you got to stay patient. So, and this is mostly speaking to people that are working on swing timeframes and things like that. If you're day trading, then you can obviously do whatever you want because most likely you're closing out your trades the same day or the next day or whatever. So that's sort of mitigating your risk from that standpoint. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to put a trial link in the description. I'll try and put it in the description and the video. So if you're not a member, you can have a 7-day trial to come in and check out what the rest of the platform is like, interact with some of the members. And if you are a existing member, you could share this video if you want to, people that could be interested, and they could take advantage of a trial and see if it's the right thing for them. So be back next week. Everyone enjoy the long weekend, and talk to you later.